October 13, 1977 dawned like any other day. At the airport in Palma de Mallorca, tourists prepared for their journeys home. Among them were the 86 passengers of Lufthansa Flight 181, their destination, Frankfurt, Germany. Little did they know their routine flight would soon become a terrifying ordeal, gripping the world for 5 agonizing days. This is the story of Lufthansa Flight 181 and Operation Fire Magic. It's a tale of terror and courage. The world watched in horror as a plane filled with innocent people became a symbol of global tension and the very real threat of terrorism. Lufthansa Flight 181 was operated by a Boeing 737 aircraft named Landshut. On that fateful day, the Landshut was under the command of Captain Jürgen Schumann and First Officer Jürgen Viador. Both were experienced pilots responsible for the safety of their passengers and crew. At 11 a.m., approximately 30 minutes after takeoff, the calmness was shattered. 4 individuals, 2 men and 2 women, rose from their seats. They were armed with pistols and grenades. The hijackers, members of the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, had breached the cockpit door. The 4 hijackers were members of the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, or PFLP. The PFLP, founded in 1967, was a Marxist-Leninist organization that sought the creation of a Palestinian state through armed struggle. The leader of the group, Zohair Akache, who adopted the nom de guerre Captain Martyr Mahmoud, was a Palestinian with a history of violence. The hijackers' demands for the release of RAF members revealed a complex web of alliances in the murky world of international terrorism. The RAF, also known as the Baader-Meinhof Group, was a West German leftist terrorist organization. The hijacking of Lufthansa Flight 181 was not simply a random act of violence, it was a carefully planned operation. News of the hijacking spread like wildfire. Lufthansa Flight 181 wasn't just a German problem, it was an international crisis. The hijacking presented a complex dilemma for the German government, led by Chancellor Helmut Schmidt. Giving in to the hijackers' demands would be seen as bowing to terrorism and could embolden other groups. However, a refusal to negotiate could have deadly consequences for the hostages. Schmidt authorized the deployment of Germany's elite counter-terrorism unit, GSG-9. Their mission to develop a plan to rescue the hostages and end the hijacking. Captain Schumann, facing the barrel of a gun, was forced to comply with the hijackers' demands. Their first order fly to Rome, Italy. The Landshut, now under the control of Captain Martyr Mahmoud and his cohorts, veered off course. The initial shock gave way to a chilling reality. They were trapped, hostages in a hijacked plane. The hijackers, eager to demonstrate their control, asserted their dominance over the passengers and crew. As the Landshut approached Rome, the Italian authorities prepared for the plane's arrival. The stopover in Rome was just the beginning of a terrifying odyssey for the passengers and crew of Lufthansa Flight 181. After several hours of tense negotiations, the hijackers ordered Captain Schumann to take off again. Their destination, Larnaca, Cyprus. The flight to Cyprus was agonizing. The hijackers, paranoid and unpredictable, kept the passengers on edge. Amidst the terror, small acts of kindness provided glimmers of hope. The arrival in Larnaca, Cyprus, did little to ease the tension. The hijackers, frustrated by the lack of progress in meeting their demands, grew increasingly erratic. Negotiations with Cypriot authorities proved fruitless. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away in Germany, Chancellor Helmut Schmidt faced an excruciating dilemma. He would buy time through negotiation while secretly authorizing the deployment of GSG-9. Their mission to develop and execute a daring rescue plan should negotiations fail. After a tense standoff in Larnaca, the hijackers ordered Captain Schumann to take off once more. Their destination, Bahrain. The flight to Bahrain was fraught with tension. The hijackers, their patience wearing thin, grew increasingly volatile. The arrival in Bahrain brought a glimmer of hope as the authorities provided food and water. The hope, however, was short-lived as the hijackers refused to release the hostages. The Landshut touched down in Dubai under a scorching desert sun. The passengers and crew, exhausted and dehydrated, had endured days of fear and uncertainty. The hijackers demanded further concessions from the German government, threatening to blow up the plane. Inside the sweltering cabin, conditions were deteriorating. The German government, meanwhile, was working tirelessly behind the scenes. A daring plan was needed to rescue the hostages and end the crisis. The situation took a tragic turn in Aden, Yemen. The hijackers forced Captain Schumann to leave the plane and shot him in cold blood. The news of Captain Schumann's murder sent shockwaves around the world. The German government, outraged by the hijackers' brutality, vowed to bring the perpetrators to justice. Chancellor Schmidt authorized GSG-9 to finalize their rescue plan. The time for negotiation was over. Following the execution of Captain Schumann, the hijackers forced First Officer Viator to take off once more. Their destination, Mogadishu, Somalia. The flight to Mogadishu was the most harrowing yet. The passengers and crew, exhausted and mourning the loss of their captain, feared that their time was running out. The Landshut landed in Mogadishu under the cover of darkness. The Somali government allowed the plane to land but refused to intervene. Unknown to them, a rescue mission was already underway. As the hijackers issued their final ultimatum, a glimmer of hope emerged. A team of highly trained German Special Forces, GSG-9, had arrived in Mogadishu under the cover of secrecy. Their mission? Operation Feuerzauber, Fire Magic, a daring nighttime raid to storm the hijacked plane and rescue the hostages. The GSG-9 team, led by Colonel Ulrich Wegener, was the best Germany had to offer. As the clock ticked down to the hijackers' deadline, the commandos prepared to strike. The world watched and waited, holding its breath, as the stage was set for a confrontation that would determine the fate of Lufthansa Flight 181. Mogadishu, shrouded in darkness, became the stage for a high-stakes gamble. The lives of 86 innocent people hung precariously in the balance, held hostage by desperate and increasingly volatile terrorists. The eyes of the world, weary from days of agonizing updates, turned to a dusty airstrip in a far-off land, their hopes pinned on a daring rescue mission. The German government, faced with an impossible choice, negotiate with terrorists or risk the lives of their citizens, had opted for a bold and risky course of action. Operation Feuerzauber, German for fire magic, was a testament to their unwavering resolve to combat terrorism and protect their people, no matter the cost. Colonel Ulrich Wegener, the steely-eyed commander of GSG-9, the elite counter-terrorism unit tasked with the rescue, knew the stakes couldn't be higher. His men, highly trained and equipped with the latest technology, were prepared for any eventuality. Their mission to infiltrate the hijacked aircraft, neutralize the terrorists, and free the hostages, all while minimizing casualties. The odds were stacked against them. The hijackers, armed and dangerous, were on high alert, their fingers hovering near the triggers of their weapons. The element of surprise was their only advantage. One wrong move, one miscalculation could spell disaster. As the hours ticked by, the tension in Mogadishu was as thick as the humid night air. Inside the stifling cabin of the Landshut, the hostages and crew endured another agonizing night of fear and uncertainty. Their bodies were exhausted, their spirits frayed, but their hope, though flickering, refused to be extinguished. First Officer Viator, thrust into a leadership role by the tragic death of Captain Schumann, continued his dangerous dance with the hijackers. Every word he uttered, every action he took was a calculated gamble to buy precious time for the rescue team. His courage, his unwavering commitment to his passengers and crew, shone through the darkness. Meanwhile, under a moonless sky, the GSG-9 commandos prepared to strike. Their faces, blackened with camouflage paint, were grim, their movements precise and silent. They were ghosts in the night, their presence undetected, their purpose unwavering. The success of Operation Feuerzauber hinged on meticulous planning and flawless execution. The commandos had trained relentlessly for this moment, simulating every possible scenario, honing their skills to razor-sharp precision. Now the time had come to put their training to the ultimate test. A hush fell over the command post as the GSG-9 team moved into position, their dark silhouettes barely visible against the backdrop of the night. Every heartbeat seemed to echo in the silence, every rustle of clothing amplified in the stillness. The weight of expectation pressed down on them, a tangible reminder of the lives that hung in the balance. Inside the landshut, the atmosphere was heavy with despair. The hijackers, their demands unmet, their patience exhausted, grew increasingly agitated. Their threats, once veiled, became more direct, more menacing. The hostages, their senses heightened by fear, clung to each other, drawing strength from their shared ordeal. Unbeknownst to the hijackers, a glimmer of hope was about to pierce the darkness. The GSG-9 commandos, their movements silent and swift, were closing in on the aircraft, their weapons at the ready. Operation Feuerzauber was about to be unleashed. Whispers of freedom, carried on the night air, reached the ears of the hostages. A flicker of hope ignited in their hearts. Could this be it? Could their nightmare finally be coming to an end? The silence of the night was shattered by a blinding flash of light and a deafening roar as the GSG-9 commandos stormed the landshut. Operation Feuerzauber had begun. Flashbang grenades designed to disorient and confuse exploded inside the aircraft, momentarily blinding and deafening the hijackers. The commandos, moving with lightning speed and deadly precision, stormed the plane from multiple entry points. Their voices, sharp and commanding, cut through the chaos. "Get down! Get down! This is GSG-9!" The hijackers, caught completely off guard, reacted with a mixture of panic and fury. Gunfire erupted, illuminating the darkness with deadly flashes of light, but the element of surprise belonged to the GSG-9 commandos. They had trained for this moment, and they were relentless in their pursuit. Inside the cabin, chaos reigned. Passengers, their ears ringing, their vision blurred, scrambled for cover, their screams lost in the din of battle. The air was thick with the acrid smell of gunpowder and the metallic tang of blood. Section 5, 7 minutes of terror. The battle for the landshut, though fierce, was over in a matter of minutes. The GSG-9 commandos, their training and discipline evident in every move, neutralized the hijackers with surgical precision. 3 of the 4 hijackers were killed in the assault, the 4th seriously wounded and captured. 7 minutes. 7 minutes of terror, of chaos, of confusion. 7 minutes that felt like an eternity to the hostages and crew trapped inside the besieged aircraft. But when the gunfire ceased and the echoes faded, a stunned silence descended. It was over. The commandos, their voices hoarse but firm, began the task of evacuating the hostages, guiding them down escape slides and onto the tarmac where they were whisked away to safety. Tears of relief streamed down the faces of the survivors, their bodies trembling with a mixture of exhaustion and elation. They were free. Operation Feuerzauber, a gamble of extraordinary daring, had paid off. The hostages were safe, the terrorists defeated. The world watched in awe, marveling at the courage and skill of the GSG-9 commandos. It was a victory against terrorism, a testament to the human spirit's ability to overcome even the darkest of nightmares. News of the hijacking reached Bonn, sending shockwaves through the government. Chancellor Helmut Schmidt faced a crisis of unprecedented proportions. The hijackers' demands were unacceptable. To concede would legitimize terrorism and set a dangerous precedent. Schmidt refused to negotiate with terrorists. He authorized a daring rescue mission, testing the limits of his nation's resolve and the skill of its elite forces. In the annals of counter-terrorism, few units command the respect and admiration of Germany's GSG-9. Formed after the Munich massacre, where 11 Israeli athletes were murdered during the 1972 Olympics, GSG-9 was West Germany's answer to terror. They were experts in counter-terrorism, hostage rescue, and high-risk operations. The call to action resonated through their ranks. They were Germany's shield and sword against terrorism. Section 3. Planning for every eventuality. The pressure was immense, the stakes impossibly high. The GSG-9 command center, usually a hive of quiet efficiency, was transformed into a crucible of planning and preparation. Maps, charts, and satellite images of the hijacked aircraft, the Landshut, were plastered across every available surface. Colonel Ulrich Wegener, the commander of GSG-9, a man known for his tactical brilliance and unwavering calm under pressure, oversaw the operation with methodical precision. Every detail, no matter how small, was scrutinized, every possible scenario gamed out, every contingency planned for. The operation, codenamed Feuerzauber, or Fire Magic, was fraught with risk. The hijackers were armed and dangerous, their motives unclear, their mental state unpredictable. The Landshut, a Boeing 737, was a confined space, a potential death trap if the assault went wrong. Undeterred, the GSG-9 planners worked tirelessly, their faces illuminated by the flickering glow of computer screens and the harsh glare of fluorescent lights. They studied the layout of the Landshut, analyzing every entrance, every exit, every potential blind spot. They pored over intelligence reports, trying to glean any scrap of information that could give them an advantage. Section 4. Secret Deployment. As the hijacked Landshut continued its terrifying odyssey across the Middle East and Africa, a top-secret operation was underway. The GSG-9, their every move cloaked in secrecy, were being quietly deployed to a staging area closer to the hijackers' suspected destination. A specially modified Lufthansa cargo plane, its windows blacked out, its cargo hold filled with weapons, ammunition, and specialized equipment, took off from a secluded airstrip in Germany, its destination known only to a select few. Inside, the GSG-9 operators, their faces grim, their eyes hardened by the gravity of their mission, made their final preparations. The flight was long and tense. The hum of the engines, the stale air, the confined space, all served as a constant reminder of the danger that lay ahead. The GSG-9 operators used to operating in the shadows were accustomed to such conditions. They were professionals, their focus unwavering, their resolve unshakable. Their destination, a discreet military base on the outskirts of Muscat, Oman. Oman, a strategically located nation on the southeastern coast of the Arabian Peninsula, had agreed to provide logistical support for the GSG-9. Their cooperation kept secret from the world to avoid jeopardizing the mission. Section 5. A beacon of hope. As the hijacked Landshut touched down in Mogadishu, Somalia, a sense of despair settled over the German government. The hijackers, their demands unmet, had reached a breaking point, yet unknown to the hijackers, a beacon of hope was about to arrive. The GSG-9 had secretly flown into the city under the cover of darkness. The fate of Lufthansa Flight 181 would be decided in the crucible of Operation Feuerzauber. The humid Mogadishu night was thick with tension. The only sounds were the chirping of crickets and the distant drone of a generator. On the tarmac, Lufthansa Flight 181 stood as a silent captive. Inside, 86 passengers and crew endured the wait. Unseen, the GSG-9 commandos moved like phantoms, their objective, a high-risk, time-sensitive assault. Colonel Wegener synchronized his watch with his team leaders. Each tick felt like a hammer blow against the silence. The hijackers grew increasingly agitated. First Officer Vitor, his courage unwavering, bought precious minutes. The GSG-9 assault team moved with practiced stealth towards their designated entry points. Their black uniforms blended seamlessly with the shadows. One team inched closer to the nose of the aircraft. Another team prepared to storm the passenger cabin. Their objective was to secure the hostages. A sniper team had a clear line of sight to the cockpit. Their rifles were trained on the hijackers, ready to act. The signal to commence the assault came as a sudden burst of static over the commandos' earpieces, followed by Colonel Wegener's voice, calm but firm. Go, go, go! The night exploded in a blinding flash and a deafening roar as stun grenades designed to disorient and confuse were hurled through the Landshut's windows and doors. The sound, amplified by the stillness of the night, reverberated across the tarmac, a shockwave that announced the arrival of the storm. The GSG-9 commandos, their senses honed by years of training, wasted no time. The forward assault team, their movements a blur, stormed the cockpit, their weapons spitting fire. The element of surprise was total, the hijackers caught completely off guard. Simultaneously, the rear assault team, their faces grim, their eyes hardened by the knowledge that lives hung in the balance, burst through the emergency exits, their weapons trained on the darkened passenger cabin. The hijackers, their plan in ruins, their control shattered, reacted with a mixture of panic and fury. Gunfire erupted inside the plane, the sharp cracks of automatic weapons echoing through the night. But the GSG-9, their training and discipline evident in every move, maintained their composure, their focus unwavering. Inside the Landshut's cramped cabin, chaos reigned. Passengers, jolted awake by explosions and gunfire, scrambled for cover. GSG-9 commandos barked orders, "Get down, stay down!" Their words were lost in the cacophony of gunfire and terrified cries. Hijackers fought back with desperate ferocity, spraying the cabin with gunfire. First Officer Viator saw hope in the determined faces of the GSG-9 commandos. Through smoke and chaos, the commandos pressed their attack, unwavering. The battle for the Landshut, though fierce, was over in a matter of minutes. The GSG-9 commandos, their training and discipline evident in every move, neutralized the hijackers with surgical precision. 3 were killed outright, their bodies riddled with bullets. The 4th, seriously wounded, was quickly subdued and taken into custody. A hush fell over the cabin, the silence broken only by the ragged gasps of the survivors and the ringing in their ears. The commandos, their faces grim but their eyes filled with a steely resolve, moved swiftly through the aircraft, securing the cabin, checking for explosives, and assuring the terrified passengers that the ordeal was over. Outside on the tarmac, the tension that had gripped the night dissipated like smoke in the wind. The sound of helicopters filled the air as medical teams arrived to tend to the wounded and evacuate the hostages to safety. Operation Feuerzauber, a gamble of extraordinary daring, had paid off. The hostages were safe, the terrorists defeated. The world watched in awe, marveling at the courage and skill of the GSG-9 commandos. It was a victory against terrorism, a testament to the human spirit's ability to overcome even the darkest of nightmares. As dawn broke over Mogadishu, casting a warm, golden glow over the city, the world awoke to the news. Operation Feuerzauber was a resounding success. The hostages of Lufthansa Flight 181 were free. The GSG-9 commandos emerged from the shadows, hailed as heroes. They had risked their lives to save others. The casualties were miraculously low. 3 of the 4 hijackers were dead. Tragically, 1 flight attendant had been killed. Her death cast a somber note over an otherwise triumphant moment. The world breathed a collective sigh of relief. From the tarmac in Mogadishu to living rooms across the globe, people celebrated the victory over terror. Operation Feuerzauber marked a turning point in the fight against terrorism. It demonstrated that highly trained special forces, equipped with the latest technology and imbued with an unyielding resolve, could successfully challenge and defeat even the most ruthless terrorists. The success of the operation sent a clear message to the world. Terrorism would not be tolerated. Governments across the globe, inspired by the GSG-9's example, began to invest heavily in their own counter-terrorism capabilities, recognizing the need for specialized units capable of responding to the evolving threat. The GSG-9, once a relatively unknown entity outside of Germany, became the gold standard for counter-terrorism units worldwide. Their tactics, training, and equipment were studied and emulated, their expertise sought after by nations eager to bolster their own defenses against the threat of terrorism. Operation Feuerzauber heralded a new era in counter-terrorism, an era defined by proactive measures, international cooperation, and an unwavering commitment to holding terrorists accountable for their actions. It was a victory not just for the hostages of Lufthansa Flight 181, but for all those who believed in a world free from the scourge of terrorism. The Landshut, once a symbol of terror and despair, was transformed into a symbol of hope and resilience. Its bullet-scarred fuselage, a testament to the violence it had endured, became a powerful reminder of the human cost of terrorism and the bravery of those who fought back. After undergoing extensive repairs, the Landshut was returned to service with Lufthansa, a tangible symbol of the airline's determination to overcome the tragedy. It continued to ferry passengers across the skies for several years, each flight a testament to the indomitable spirit of those who had endured the hijacking. In 2008, the Landshut was retired from service and flown back to Germany, where it was put on display at the Dornier Museum Friedrichshafen, a poignant reminder of a pivotal moment in aviation history. The Landshut's legacy, however, extends far beyond its physical presence in a museum. It serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of vigilance, the need for international cooperation, and the unwavering human spirit that refuses to be broken, even in the face of unimaginable adversity. The hijacking of Lufthansa Flight 181 and the daring rescue that ensued is a story of fear and courage, of despair and hope. It reminds us that the threat of terrorism is real and ever-present. It knows no borders, no ideology, no religion. But we are not powerless. We can choose to confront fear with courage, to meet hatred with compassion, to respond to violence with justice. United, we can create a world where peace and understanding prevail.